What's going on, guys? JD at JD's Custom Buggies. Last night, doing race prep, motor was locked up on my niece's Trailmaster number 13, and kind of figured it might be something with the top end. I was thinking it'd probably be a bent valve when I took the head off last night. It was more than just bent. This kind of dropped out. So I went ahead and removed the head. Motor still in the buggy, and figure it's time for a valve job. So I would figured I'd kind of take a little video just to give the idea of what goes on or whatnot. Now, just keep in mind, I'm new at this portion of it. I've been building buggies for years. The motor thing is a little newer to me. I laid hands on a bunch of them. Didn't have to start actually building motors until a couple months ago. So I've done a couple valve jobs, taught myself, and you know, for reference, I've watched other people do it. And quite frankly, valve jobs weren't that new to me, at least the concept of it, just from racing cars, you know, watching my engine builders do it. So I figured for those who didn't know, this might be interesting for you. So I'm going to point the camera down a little bit to where I'm working, and we'll go from there. So here's my head. I have just trying to get a decent angle on there. I've taken it off. The other end of the broken valve was actually stuck in there. So this is basically rusted out. So I took some lubricant in a bottle brush and put it in a parts cleaner, and I have a bottle brush small enough to actually go in the valve guide there, where it slides in and out. So here's my new exhaust. Here's my new valves. Set of Hoka GY6 valves, and you know, let's see how smooth it is. Yep, nice and smooth now. Okay, but that was stuck in there. I had to take a punch and kind of coax it out with a punch. So the exhaust valve was the culprit there. Not so bad on the intake valve side to begin with, but I went ahead and scrubbed them both out. Also cleaned up the head entirely, inside and out. Took a wire wheel on the Dremel and kind of went in the ports. This has already been port and polished here, and so at this point now, I'm ready to reassemble the head, put the valve springs back on, and everything else. So we're just gonna go through lapping. So after watching, you know, multiple videos on different people doing it, and everybody's got their own take. This is my take. I'm sure some of you with engine experience who might stumble across this video be like, why is he doing it that way? This is, like I said, I've done a couple. Had good results with the way I'm doing it so far. So, you know, a lot of things are a rule of thumb. I don't think this is so much, as long as you're doing it correctly and the end result's correct. So we have 3 jars of lapping compound here. We have a 400, an 800, and a 1200. Obviously, it's like sandpaper. The lower the number, the smaller the number, the more coarse it is. So 400 is coarser than the 800, 800 is coarser than 1200. So what I do is I actually do it 3 times. I'll do it with 400, and like a heavy sandpaper, like an 80 grit or a 60 grit, that'll really cut it in there. And then I'll kind of smooth it out with this 800, and then I'll do my finishing touches with the 12. So let's start with the 8. Take my exhaust valve and I just give it a little twirl. Probably I got too much on there, but that's alright because it's all getting wiped out anyway. And when this is all said and done, what you're going to want to do is basically wash this head out. You don't want any of this lapping compound left over in there. All it's going to do is be abrasive and cause issues. So one thing I didn't do, which I'm going to reach down and do now, is I usually do this on 2 blocks of wood, so I might have to resituate the camera. And I left my dowel pins in there, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. In fact, it might actually help me. Okay, so there we go. I'll move these jars. I'll push this a little more towards the camera. I think we're good there. It's hard for me to tell because I really can't see the camera screen. sure your valve's not resting against your block of wood. I'd probably turn this way. Better off. Alright, so this is a lapping tool. It's got 2 suction cups in it. They seem to be real hard to work on as far as doing it with these little valves on a GY6, but there is a bigger one and a smaller one. So we're going to take the little one. There we go. Now a lot of people you see, like they're building a fire, just kind of twirl it around. So what I'm doing is I'm lapping the valve in there. I'm actually cutting the valve seat to the shape of the valve. And what we're trying to accomplish is getting the best seal possible on your valve, so when it's closed, it is airtight. The cylinder would be airtight. Suction cup's working pretty good, so I'm able to do the little fire starter thing. Sometimes I have to be a little more gentle with it because it'll pop off. But I seem to be doing good with this. You hear the noise it's making. As we go to a finer lapping compound, it'll be less noise and everything will actually get smoother. Okay, we're going to do our intake valve. I might use the big end on this. We'll see how it grips. Yep, good. Oh, let's try a little end and see if it's any better. Nope. And this is the part where I usually last night this went smooth as silk. Today it's going to give me an issue. You always, if you're thinking about changing valves in your head, this is something that is pretty much going to need to be done. Yeah. Actually feel it cutting. It gets quieter. I'll pick it up and I'll move it again. Time, because this is our troubled side. That's probably good enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out. Get myself a towel. I'm going to wipe my valves off. Put the jar back on my 400 grit. And we're going to repeat with 800. And then again with 1200. And you can see, well, if I hold it in the camera right, you can see the white line on the edge of, let me get it there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there'll be kind of like a silvery edge, and it's kind of what we're going for. Wipe this out. And I can see on my valve seats that, we're definitely making a mark in there. So I can see where the valve is lapping into the seat. Alright, here we are with the 400, or the 800, excuse me. to the intake. Good. You can feel it getting smoother and smoother as you're doing it, and at that point, kind of know it's time to change up and go to the next. So this will be our final deal. And again, when you assemble this, you want to remember to clean this head out and clean those valves out. The last thing you want to do is have a lapping compound in there when you put the valves in the guides. And run the motor. Now we're going to hit it with the 1200. And then we're going to clean this thing. Alright. Big difference too. You can, from going to 4 to 12, I mean, this thing is gliding a lot smoother now. You can just tell that there's more abrasive in the 400. That feels really good to me. So. Good deal. I'm happy with that, I think. Put the jar on this, move it out of my way. So that's the basics, and that's, I mean, if you know, big thing with me is I like to see things done to get a grasp of how it's done. I'm kind of like an eyes-on, hands-on guy. See it and do it. Reading about it sometimes kind of tough. So I figured this would be a good visual, and might help you guys out. I mean, the thing is, when I started out, I didn't know anything, and a lot of it just came from trying things out and trial and error and this and that and the other thing. It's kind of what I'm trying to pass on to you guys, to at least maybe save you a little time and money along the way. But none of it should be all that intimidating. So that's the gist of it. Now we're just going to clean everything up. So that being said, if you learn anything, you like it, hit the like button, and we'd love to have more subscribers, so feel free to subscribe if you're into buggies like we are. We'd love to have you. So that being said, time to get to work. JD out.